Welcome back, everybody. It's Rudy with Alpha Investments, and during the holidays, I usually have a little bit more time, so I actually like to pull out kind of my version of kind of the quote-unquote God book type thing of each set. And I always usually take that time during the holidays and kind of reflect and look at all the amazing cards and kind of try to get a sometimes lose sight of the appreciation of some of this stuff. So I figured, you know what, this year, people have asked about it in the past. I think we should share in the process together. That's kind of the comment here. So I do use these really nice little D-ring binders that I got a long time ago as a promo for buying some other stuff. And so today's video is going to be about antiquities, legends, and quite frankly, one of the sets I always felt was the largest uncracked case of complex hidden things over the years. And just recently, a lot of these cards have become more well known and a lot more, I don't know what to say, a lot more people been focused on them since 2016, 2017 with the buyouts and the prices and everything. So obviously, before we get into this video and I show you all the raw cards and kind of discuss my mindset and what's going on, please, of course, none of these cards are for sale in this video. I appreciate all the comments every time and the offers, but again, nothing you see in this video is for sale. Please do not waste your time, and let's just have some fun. So, Legends, the infamous gigantic, massive-sized set. So, this set was just so ridiculously big years ago. It is just, there was so much, what I like to call hidden potential in these old sets. This was a time when Magic made these sets. I felt they took a lot of chance. The creativity was like 11 out of 10. The way the cards interacted, the way they stuck to the certain colors and strengths and weaknesses, or the pie chart and all that fun stuff. It was just an amazing thing to me. And I feel we've really lost our way, and we've gone to an era where, we all want full arts. And that's just not for me. They're pretty, though. They are pretty. So, let's start with the black cards. Everything you're going to see in this particular binder from the infamous Vault here, from the Vault Rudy edition, these are all the raw cards. I don't know if you guys noticed, this particular All Hallows Eve is actually lighter than the rest. Some people call it like a lightened version, where they ran low on the ink. Some people almost call it towards the albino side. Not quite there, but it's kind of weird how that happens. It was funny, a long time ago when I got that, I actually thought this card could actually be fake because it was so light. It actually didn't look like the rest of them, and turns out it's actually real. It's just, I guess, every once in a while they did that back then. It's kind of weird. So, everything in this binder are all the cards that I kind of felt was non-PSA 10 gradable over the last 10 years. So these are all the ones I've accumulated that have not been slabbed. So, for example, we'll stop here for a second, and I'm going to use my hairy arm. Hang on, everybody. This is a brick. This brick is just PSA 10 black legend cards. So these are just black legends, just PSA 10. These are just the blacks. So we're going to, for example, I guess I'll just I don't want to damage the cards. I'll just use my hand here. So I'll grab a handful, for example, just to kind of show you guys. These are the ones that I actually felt were quote-unquote gradable, I guess you could say. So let's grab a stack of them just to kind of show you guys what I mean. I don't know. That seems to be pretty good. We'll go with that. So, hang on. It's all right. Okay. So, for example, when I would come across the cards that I felt were good enough to be graded, so for example, on the All Hallows Eves, on these, I would actually pull them out. If I felt I could get a 10 or I could acquire these from elsewhere. I have not graded anything recently, though. So that was pretty much the mindset, if I could felt. And in my opinion, of course, nothing's perfect, but they are pretty consistent, and I do agree with almost all of the grades. So that was kind of why. Then the rest of them that were not what I felt, again, this was an era where Beckett didn't exist. These, I left the rest of them that were played, or I accumulated, or a lot of these were bought. I think a majority of the cards were actually bought around the between 2014 and 2017. So, again, Black Four Horsemen, All Hallows, Abyss, again, Nether Voids, same thing. So again, a lot of these I did buy graded, and of course chains, there's change. So, but again, the ones that I felt would be perfect, I would actually pull aside type thing, or gradable quality type thing. So, Anyways, again, some of these other ones, they'll still grade well, and even if it's played, I don't really care. I still like it, but, it's not really slab quality. And again, at the end of the day, honestly, don't really care. I just like the damn cards. So, we got a bunch of chains here. Then we get into Hellfire. This is another one of those cards where, again, to step back from this, it's nice this time of year to sometimes just take a step back from everything going on, the news, the Ultimate Masters, the emotions, and everything, and just realize where it all came from. And that's what makes me really enjoy these videos. It's kind of, like I said, I do this anyways every year during the holidays, so I thought, hell, I might as well film it and let everybody enjoy it with me. And for those of you who are looking for other content, this video may not be for you. For those of you who want to enjoy and just look at eye candy or eye porn or whatever you guys want to call it, this is a video for you, and you guys can enjoy it with me. So, like I've always said along the way, the Legends was such a massive set. I felt it had so much hidden potential of cards that were not really fully appreciated. You can tell I've moved cards around. There's a lot of empty slots. Some were graded, some I traded, some were just moved, and some of them, remember too, when I build a complete set, I pull them out of here into like a complete set notebook or binder, so it gets removed from this non-complete set binder. So that's why you guys are going to see some kind of gaps like that. And then recently, I just started putting the Italian ones in. I still don't like the Italian cards. The only thing I like is the brighter colors, but I don't do foreign cards. Everybody always asks me about that. So nothing really crazy there. As far as, again, the set goes, I still to this day feel a lot of the cards have not, I don't know, and you guys can laugh at me. I don't feel they have their full potential released. Like, we all know the mainstream cards. We know the Black Four Horsemen style cards. We know Mirror Universe, but now, when it comes to these, and this is just recently, I started pulling a lot of these from these other random stacks I've had over the years. I've been recently just starting to slowly add up some of these random things, because it's kind of one of those things where, for the longest time, these cards weren't really sought after. Like, literally nobody wanted them. It was a time where you put them on eBay, they would just sit. You'd have to auction them off or just keep them. And I didn't have a lot of them until probably about 2016. I got a little bit more, but I still, to this day, did not buy a lot or accumulate a lot like I did more power cards. And I kind of regret that quite a bit, because some of these cards I don't have any extras of, or I only have, a playset of 4 extra. Some I only have 1 extra of. Because, again, a lot of these cards were kind of non-mainstream cards, but have become very sought after post-reserve list craziness, obsessiveness. And I do regret kind of missing out on a lot of these type of, especially the artifacts, the gold cards and the artifacts and legends. Again, the set was so big. I still don't think people unlock the full potential of a lot of these things. There's just so many bizarre old cards. I just think, again, these are great examples of it. All these artifacts, these random ones, these arenas and these manas and these different life matrix, there's such a bizarre card that, people have played with them. Some are decent, some are garbage, but I don't think people have really mastered them. Just kind of my opinion. Could be wrong. Just kind of how I feel about it. So as far as the gold cards goes, again, everybody knows Angus. He's the mainstream guy. Cards like that, there's nothing really hidden potential. Everybody knows, EDH, Commander. Everybody knows it's a good card. People like it. There's nothing secretive about it. Some of these cards you can see, these were from, some of you may recognize it from collection purchases over the last couple of years from the YouTube channel, where I do accumulate some signed cards. I do not like the signed cards, but again, I have them, I've accumulated them. To this day, I'm still not really, I don't go out of my way to buy signed cards, but I won't turn down a large deal if there's a few mixed in. Same thing with the old Elder Dragon Legends, the original guys, the original EDH, the original black bordered dragons. Again, these were just wrecked with the Chronicles reprint, and that became the beginning of the end, and the reserve list and everything from 1994. It was a very, very volatile time, because these were some of the most big daddy, big penis core, people loved them, and then they got wrecked. A lot of historical stuff with those things. And again, some of these other ones, these other type of cards, like the Black Blade and some of these other lady cards, some of these have been, again, they kind of, what I like to kind of say, they kind of flew under the radar. I'm not saying like Halfdane or, Black Blade or infamous Nebuchadnezzar. If I had $1 every time people pronounce that wrong, I wouldn't even be making videos now. But again, there's a lot of these other cards that were always worth a few dollars, but just recently people realized they're just very bizarre, unique cards in the game. How about the old Dream Reaver? The Dream Reaver. How about that lately, huh? The old Rasputin, that out of nowhere became a big deal. you know? So I think there's a lot of cards that are hidden in that category. I genuinely believe that. Again, the old, I don't even know how you want to pronounce this guy, Oakenshield? That's what I call him. I mean, this was another one. I never really went on my way to bought these. I've accumulated some of these in collections, and I found some of these in my bulk, old 94 bulk stuff. But again, these are all worth money now, and I find that very strange. And I think it's a result of just being overlooked, because when people thought Legends, they thought this, they thought that, they thought this, and what? Hell's Caretakers? Those are the things. Nobody really thought of, the other stuff. People weren't into these kind of second, third tier Legend cards. And I think that's really made a big difference lately. Same thing. I mean, anybody? Anybody knows the price lately? There's a lot of these cards that are like that. Now, Gwendolyn, for the longest time, I've always liked the card. It's just been something personal with me. It's been many years. I've just been buying Gwendolyn. Now, again, you can see some of these, again, that's why they're kind of weird. I pulled some out, and some have been graded over the years. But, again, these raw, like the Gwendolyns, this was a card that I always felt was just genuinely a good card. I mean, literally, it's like a hippie, but you can, I don't know. It's not as good as a hippie, in my opinion, because you can attack with the hippie, then use both abilities versus one or the other. But anyways, I don't know. And then you have the very risque artwork. And by the way, really? Signature? Julie? Come on. CounterfeitRudySignature.com. I mean, we sell better signatures than that. So, the Gwendolyn card has always been to me, the artwork alone, and this gets into those cards that I don't, even if it wasn't reserved list, I don't think it would make a difference on the original version. There are some cards, specifically because of the artwork and the name and this type of thing alone, the artwork alone makes it non-reprintable. That's how I feel about a lot of this stuff. Where there's some cards where if it wasn't reserved list, I do think they would drop a lot. Similar thing like the Caracas type thing, or I don't know, Mana Crypt maybe, Monovolt, stuff like that. But cards like this, even if this wasn't reserved list and they reprinted with new art, I do not believe it would affect any of the value of the old cards. That I really, and again, that's a sentimental thing to me, so of course I'm going to be very biased how I feel about that. Look at Sylvan Library, great example, everyone. When I look at this card and think about it, I think of 4th edition. I don't think of Legends. I think of the 4th edition reprint, because that's the one me and everybody else from 1995, when Magic became a mainstream national thing all over the country, everybody was buying 4th edition and Ice Age. Revised was drying up. Fallen Empires, Chronicles, Homelands, 4th edition, Ice Age was available. I remember the white bordered Sylvan Libraries. And the funny thing, Sylvan Library was nobody gave two shits back then, everybody. Sylvan Library back in the day, nobody talked about it. Nobody collected these things. I mean, Living Lands is the alpha. Living Plane, same thing. This was not a card that I even gave two shits. I didn't even care about it for the longest time. Nobody paid attention to these things for the longest time. And then in the last probably 2, 3, 4 years maybe? All of a sudden, random cards like this, pull a 5-year chart. Same thing. These were those second, third tier Legend cards that nobody focused on that eventually became a thing. And so it deserved a place in the spicy Legends, I don't want to call it bulk binder, because then people are going to just kill me in the comment section. But again, same thing, Eureka, it's always been a mainstream card. For the longest time, I think Eureka was like a $50 card. This was one of the only cards I did not get a lot of, even when I was younger, even over the years from 2004, when I first started going heavy, all the way to 2018 now. It's still one of my weakest position cards. Again, look, only 2 extra raw ones, not including the graded. I got graded ones, but that's not very many for me. And, I just love the artwork. I don't even know about the card, don't care about it. Again, 3rd tier Legend card that recently went from nobody cares to it has value, and if you want it, you got to pay for it. Look at the Willow. Same thing, everybody. 4 or 5 years ago, nobody would have talked about this card. The only thing people would have talked about is Rudy faking that signature. It doesn't matter. I mean, nobody cared about these, and suddenly it's a thing. Same thing. Master of the Hunts? Same thing. I got a random 4 in here. I mean, and these are just from collection purchases recently in the last 24 months. And I never even kept or thought of any of those. Same thing with Stormseeker. I'm pretty sure this was a Chronicles reprint. And it was worthless for ever. And I got a couple in here now, and it's the same thing. It was worthless for a year. Nobody wanted it. Nobody talked about it. And suddenly, the original black bordered, and I don't even think that's reserve list, because I'm pretty sure that's not reserve list. Same thing. Typhoon, this is not, okay, this is an interesting page. Look, Typhoon, same thing. Nobody wanted it. It was a second, third tier card. Nobody thought about it, put time into it, really tested it. Same thing with the Crossroads. Crossroads, in my opinion, was always a cool card, but it never really got a lot of love. And then, of course, with the Chronicles reprint, it got the white border. I don't think it was a 4th edition reprint. I think it was just Chronicles, if I remember correctly. A little foggy, everybody. It's been the 90s. I'm old now. I got a walker next to me. So, I mean, same thing. These black bordered Crossroads are just, not reserve lists. It's on reprinted in Chronicles, and the black border ones still hold a major price compared to the counterparts. And then you get goofy cards, again, like Wood Elemental. I'm not going to talk. It is what it is. And I got some other random things up here that I just recently started trying to look for that I've had in all my piles because I didn't realize, I thought these were like 25-cent cards. Same thing. Legends is, again, broken record. Legends is such a massive set. I don't think people ever really looked into all these other tier cards. And everybody was just obsessed with, and again, I'm in the red, and I organize my cards a little weird, you guys. So again, I'm at red, blue, white, and then, of course, land in the back. That's how I do all mine. I don't use the same order everybody else does. Winds of Change. Exact same discussion with you guys. How many is there? There's 10 of them here. So this card, again, was a 4th edition reprint. And in 4th edition, it was literally like a 50-cent to $1 card since 1995. Seriously, I don't remember ever playing with it. I don't remember ever going to my local store and having anybody use it against me in a red deck. Red deck, this isn't a burn spell. Nobody wanted it. Like, seriously, that was the mindset. Chain Lightning. Again, I know this has always been a thing, but at least where I am in Florida, like everyone I played with and everything, we never used Chain Lightnings. Honestly, we just never used it. Everybody I knew just played Lightning Bolt. So, whatever. I don't have much to say about the Chain Lightnings. Okay, Caverns of Despair. How about this thing that's come out of nowhere? Again, one of these random couple dollar cards that's been that way for, 20 years, I think? How many years? This is one of those cards where you look at it, and you're like, all right, Caverns of Despair. First of all, it said Enchant World. That alone, you got me. You got me. I'm already in love with you. 4 mana, Enchant World card. That just cracks me up. But again, at the end of the day, all players may attack with no more than 2 creatures each turn, and block with no more than 2 creatures. So it kind of puts a throttle, kind of a little bottleneck on the old people who want to do creature decks. But again, it was expensive. It's unique, Enchant World. I didn't think this card would ever be really worth more than $1. So that's now the old Cabalds. The Overlord card again really caught me off guard. I always speculated and I always thought that this creature type would come back and become a big thing, but it never really did. Kind of like the Slivers. I thought by now in 2018, Slivers would have been reprinted and become a thing again. Didn't really happen. But nonetheless, the Overlord particular card, because of the rarity, Legends, and honestly, the cheesy old school art is still very, come on, you guys. Look at this ridiculous art. Are you serious right now? Look at... is that Rudy? Or is the guy on the left? I'm thinking this is Rudy, because he's got a pointy hat. So, when I look at this stuff, I think sometimes it's almost like a reset for the year for me. It's kind of an interesting thing to just reflect back on everything and really just kind of take it in. And again, because of the length of these videos, again, all I'm doing is just going over a notebook here. I like to take my time, which is why, if you guys want to see another video where I just do the Legends, graded cards, we can do that. I won't too many, but I don't want to flood the channel with just, showing old cards. I like to have variety. But if you guys want to see, the same Legends thing, maybe in the next few months with just the graded cards, we can do something like that. But Falling Star. Again, Chaos Orb type of flipping cards in the air. Actual requires dexterity and real movement of the cards. You just don't see that stuff. Maybe in an unset, but you don't see that craziness. Stormworld. I think this was, if I remember, a year ago. Wasn't Stormworld? I think Stormworld was one of the original. Where people online. This was one of the original cards. I can't remember. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe this was one of the original buyout cards that became kind of viral-ish in the Magic community. Because I remember having people text me and email me, and patrons sent me messages about, Rudy, what do you think of Stormworld? And it went to, somebody tried to push it to $1,000 a card or something ridiculous. And I remember saying, okay, well, it's kind of a unique card, but I don't know about this whole $1,000 thing. I don't know what it is today, but it just, every time I see that card, it triggers my memory. And I specifically remember that back in the day. I don't know if anybody else remembers that or not. I do. So anyways, I'm just saying that I feel that when you have a buyout or some circumstance, it almost marks or taints the card. It's almost like when you look at Moat now. Excuse me. You know, certain cards I always look at and I remember the history with it. So, just my opinion, everybody. Anyway, so over here we got some other cards very similar. Gravity Spear, Land's Edge. You know, some of these have been reprinted. I'm looking at you, Land's Edge. You know, and some of these have not. Some of these are reserve list. You know, Gravity. I think even Frost Giant. Some weird ones I hear. But again, these are these weird tier 2, tier 3 weird cards that, you know, I like that. I like the very bizarre cards. And by the way, since when did like a Legends Bloodlust, which is like a penny in 4th edition, become like $20 for like a near mint copy? And again, it just shows, you know, reserve list doesn't always matter. It is what it is, everybody. Just kind of laying it out there. So let's get over to the blue cards. So apologize, my voice is a little raspy because I've been coughing a lot, the allergies and cold weather, getting a cold, blah blah blah. So in the Eye of Chaos, another one of these cards was not like the super hot rare at the beginning over all the years, but it's become one of those mid-tier blue cards. There's been a bunch of them. Eye of Chaos, Recall, which again, this is a non-reserve list card, reprinted in Chronicles, but the original version is, you know, a Chronicles version is like what, 50 cents? And, you know, the Legends version is nowhere near that. Same thing. You kind of those are kind of my favorite thing. Land's Equilibrium was another one of them. Honestly, after seeing and learning more about this card, I'm very surprised it stayed cheap for so long. There's certain cards I just kind of feel I don't know, maybe slip through, or I don't know, people just don't pay attention sometimes. And this was one of those cards for the longest time was worth next to nothing. All right, Invoking the P. Not much to say about it. If you guys want to look into that card, I've made other videos on it. I'm not really going to say much about that. Next, let's get into the Field of Dreams. This was one of the cards I really loved a couple years ago, and I bought like I think about 50 of these a long time ago. I really just loved the card, and I thought it was severely underappreciated, underloved. And I think on average, I remember paying, I think I paid $20 a card, 15, 20, and I think at the end I was paying 25 and 30. I can't remember the price, and honestly, I don't really care. Because again, I don't care if it's 130 or 230 or if it's just $10. I'm not going to sell them anyways. But I mean, I thought it was a really unique card, and it's an enchant world. You know how I feel about that. Here, let's do one up close, since this is kind of one of those weird ones. It is an enchant world card, which alone, it's got very cool, unique art. It's super cheap for an enchantment. It's a 1-drop, and then everybody gets to play with the top card of their library revealed, and depending what kind of deck you're playing, that can really help you or hurt you. And I just thought it was a unique mechanic, the enchant world, a unique art. It had a lot of things going for it. That was just kind of my opinion. And then when you get over to some of these other things, again, the Cloak, another one of these weird 2nd, 3rd tier rares that until recently nobody cared. Reset, this was not reprinted in Chronicles. This has always been a little bit more sought after because it wasn't reprinted. Now, this was a great example of one of those scenarios where, in my opinion, the most powerful counterspell in the game, I know everyone says Force of Will is, but I've always thought Mana Drain was the #1 counterspell. Just me. But again, it depends if you're playing Mana Burn or not, right? So, Mana Drain is a textbook example of, since it's not reserve list, the price of the card has been stunted and even declined and stayed flat, just like Caracas. So we have examples of some cards that are reserve list. We have examples of some cards that are not reserve list, and it's actually hurt the card in the value and long term. Caracas, Mana Drain. And then we have cards that are not reserve list that it hasn't made any difference. I always find that to be very fascinating. Now, people are going to say in the comments, well, Rudy, these are uncommons, not rares. And that very well could be alone by itself. So it's just very interesting how each card is affected differently. There's no real blanket formula to figure this stuff out, and I think that's interesting. All right, so finishing, we're going to keep going. This is a long video. I apologize, everybody, but I hope you're not in a hurry. So Telekinesis. This is another one of those cards for the longest time. Again, couple dollar card for pretty much all the 90s and 2000s. Very unique card, and then recently, it's just kind of been getting a little bit more attention ever since the buyouts and just kind of the unique nature of it. And I have to admit, it's like Mayan artwork on there? I always thought that was kind of neat from the old Daniel. Didn't you guys think it was cool? 2-drop, instant, and look, I mean, the ability, I just think it's interesting. I really do. I don't know what it's worth today, but again, it's one of those weird cards I always felt was overlooked. So, Acid Rain, same thing. I recently just started realizing that was even worse something, so I've been kind of trying to dig them up and put them in here. Moats, again. One of these cards that I'm not going to spend much time on because, again, most people now, they think of Moat, they think of the original buyout from, I think, 2 years ago now? Has it been a year and a half, 2 years? 2017, 2016? It became the very first buyout card, which I think it was $200 a card. Then after the buyout, went to like $600. And then I think it went back down to $400, and now it's leveled at the $500 or something. I don't know. Again, so Moats has always been one of those cards. Is what it is, everybody. Not much to say about it. All right, I guess let's comment a little bit about land tax here. So land tax not only was reprinted with same artwork, same everything in 4th edition. The value of the legends and versus the 4th edition, and even the newest ones, which was Battle Bond, not Conspiracy, I think it's Battle Bond. You know, it's interesting that now this particular original version, original artwork Black Border is not appreciated or worth a lot more than the 4th edition counterparts. So again, the reserve list conversation of what is important and what is not a blanket statement. As you can see, when you really, kind of zoom into certain cards, the value and how it's fluctuated over the years is very interesting, how it's different on each card, how it's affected. Now, I remember hearing about this, I think about 6 months ago, about there was threads, and I had patrons send me messages and links on Reddit and different things saying, Rudy, read this, check it out. And apparently there was a group of investors or something that bought out, I guess, Lifeblood. And it went from like a couple dollars to like a couple hundred and then came back down or something. So now, again, every time I see that card, I remember, oh yeah, I remember like, in 2017, there were people doing, trying to manipulate that. I always remember that now. So Thunder Spirit, again, one of those really... Here, we'll pull one out. This is just a really funny story. So, this is a really nice one. Oh, that's a really good condition. So, this is one of those cards that, again, on the surface, 3-drop, 2/2 first strike flying. That's it. Seriously. And this is like a $200 card in mint condition now. There's cards like that sometimes that really do amaze me because it's really nothing unique about it. I mean, I know old school, how many white cards are in old school that are 3-drops that have first strike and fly. I mean, I get it. In that particular format, there's not a lot of replacements for it. I understand that. It's like the Djinns and a Freeze. You get very specific things. I get it. But again, cards like that are fascinating to me. Again, some of these, like this, Thunder Spear was not reprinted in Chronicles. It dodged the reprint, and I believe it is reserve list. But cards like this, this is not reserve list, been reprinted in Chronicles. This is reserve list, not reprinted at all. Reserve list, not reprinted at all. Oh, excuse me. So, when you think about it, it's interesting the effects of all that stuff. Oops. All right, let's wrap this video up. This is getting really long. Again, a lot of these weird things. So, last thing, let's just wrap up. Tabernacle. I'm not going to spend much time talking about Tabernacle. It is what it is. These are my raw, ungraded ones. I don't really have much to say about it. I thought $1,000 was crazy, and now people want like $2,000 to $3,000 depending on condition. It is what it is, everybody. It's a legendary land. The name is unique. The artwork is unique. The ability of the card is extraordinarily unique, and it has no cost. There's no substitute for a card that is pretty much no cost to play and has that kind of ability. I mean, I don't have much to say about it. I don't really want to focus on it too much because it's a broken record. Caracas, same thing with the Mana Drain. Same thing with Mana Crypt, some of the other ones, not reserve lists, been reprinted. This would probably be like a $500 card if it was reserve list and non-reprintable. This is a good example of the impact of the reserve list versus not having reserve lists. So I think it's an interesting case study on Caracas in particular. So this wraps up the video, everybody. Now we just got some goofy Pendelhavens back here. Again, not reserve list, been reprinted a couple times. I just thought you guys would like to share and have a good time with me. Tell me any comments below if you guys want to see some other things, old stuff. This is just one particular old school binder of mine. I just thought it was kind of a really neat thing to share. It's been a long time since I've shared some old unique stuff, and I hope you guys enjoyed it and seen some cool stuff. If you guys want to see like the Legends, just the graded PSA 10s or just some graded stuff, or if you guys want to see just a certain set. Rudy, I want to see Antiquities. Rudy, I want to see Revised. I want to see Revised Dual Land. I don't know. Let's see how many people pick a certain thing, and if there's enough people that comment on a certain set, we'll do another one. Other than that, enjoy your holidays. Again, have fun. Enjoy it. It's not just about flipping and making money, everybody. Enjoy the hobby. Seriously.